It's quite debatable about exactly when hip-hop became a thing. It was given a birth date of August 1973, however, and the 50th anniversary was celebrated in August 2023, so that's what we go with. Some say that it started even a little earlier than that, but either way, it's been quite a while, and the art of rap has branched off from what it started into several different subgenres. It's no longer simply about partying and talking about your DJ. There's some based on region like hyphy originating in the Bay Area, Oakland in particular, by artists like Keith the Sneak and E40, or based on religion like Christian rap with artists like Lecrae. Some are based on language, such as Latin rap with artists like Puerto Rican rapper Bad Bunny. One of the most popular, polarizing, and persistent subgenres of all time is gangsta rap, which exploded in popularity in the late 80s and the early 90s. Just like gangsta rap, drill did the same in the 2010s and beyond. If the question is, where did drill music come from? My answer is gangsta rap, and I'm going to break down why. Gangsta rap, or reality rap as it's sometimes called, is pretty much defined as rapping about gangs, street life, drug dealing, and so on and so forth. It might seem like an obvious thing to develop coming from the harsh environments of poverty, with many youth needing an outlet to talk about the things they've seen or gone through in their neighborhoods. For some, it became a way to escape from the poverty of the inner city, or simply an artistic expression. Gangsta rap, as it was called at times, got extremely popular thanks to N.W.A in the late 80s and is well known for being associated with the West Coast, the LA area in particular. However, it didn't originate there. In 1984, Philadelphia rapper Schoolie D released the track Gangster Boogie. On the track, he mentions having a gangster lean and raps about selling weed. This very well might be the first rap track to have the word gangster in the title. If not, then one of the first. Then in 1985, Schoolie D released his self-titled debut album. On it is the track PSK, What Does It Mean? Well, PSK means Parkside Killers, which was a gang that Schoolie D was associated with back in Philly, and this song is considered by many to be the origin of gangsta rap. Throughout the song, Schoolie never mentions the gang directly, however, most likely due to not wanting to be self-snitching as a lot of rappers do nowadays. He mentions PSK on the chorus with the lines, PSK, we're making that green. People always say, what the hell does that mean? P for the people who can't understand how one homeboy became a man. S for the way we scream and shout, one by one I'm knocking you out. K for the way my DJ cuttin'. Once again, no mention of what exactly PSK is. On the second verse, he has the lines, then my homie called me on the phone, his name is Chief Keef, but we call him Bone. Told me about this party on the south side, caught my pistol, jumped into the ride. It's funny he had a homie named Chief Keef, considering Chief Keef's role in popularizing drill music, which I will definitely be getting to. That next year in 1986, Newark, New Jersey born rapper Ice-T, who began his career in LA, released the single 6 in the Morning, and it was also featured on his debut album Rhyme Pays, released in 1987. Ice-T is on record stating that that song was influenced by PSK, as he uses the same cadence that Schoolie D used. In an interview with Sway in the Morning, for example, he stated that Ice Cube was also influenced by PSK when he wrote Boys in the Hood for Eazy-E, which was featured on the compilation album N.W.A and the Posse, and a remix of the song was on their official debut album Straight Outta Compton. Once again, the song featured the same cadence as Schoolie D's from PSK.
Ice-T, ladies and gentlemen.
That's crazy.
The inventor of gangster rap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before N.W.A.
Well, you know what it is? I got to give credit to Schoolie D.
Schoolie D, Philadelphia.
From Philly?
Yeah, PSK blew my mind, you know. Now, if you want to track the movement, you know, PSK's making that green. And I heard that record, and the music was like dust, like... I was like, man, this is a different style of rap, you know, because people were rapping fast. And I was like, you know, and he said, PSK's making that green. I said, 6 in the morning, police at my door. Fresh Adidas squeeze. And then right after that, Cube came with The Boys in the Hood Are Always Hard. And all those records are basically using the same cadence as PSK.
An East Coast rapper influencing a West Coast rapper. It shows just how influential and widespread rap was getting in general. Once again, the origin of gangster rap would be mainly attributed to Ice-T and N.W.A. in Cali. The key word in gangster rap is the gang part. As I said earlier, Schoolie D was affiliated with the Parkside Killers. Ice-T is known to have been affiliated with the Crips, and Eazy-E was known to be associated with the Crips as well, along with his fellow N.W.A. member MC Ren. Although Eazy-E never really mentioned gangbanging in his music like that, these street tales formed, or rather popularized, gangster rap, and it was then a force to be reckoned with in the hip-hop realm and brought to light the living conditions of the inner city youth doing what they had to do to survive. They spoke on things like police brutality, which is one of the positives you could say that came from the subgenre, and something I'll get into a little later. N.W.A. released the album Straight Outta Compton in August 1988. That album featured the classic track Gangsta Gangsta, which was the second single from the album, and as you can see, it has Gangsta in the title, and it is a prime example of the type of music along with the first single and most well-known track from the album, which is the title track. Songs like those, along with Ice-T tracks like 6 in the Morning and Colors, helped bring gangsta rap to the mainstream. Straight Outta Compton was a multi-platinum selling album, and the single also sold platinum. Furthering the whole gangsta push, Ice-T released his fourth album, OG, Original Gangsta, featuring the title track, which made it to the top 10 of the Billboard Top Rap Songs chart. One of the interesting things about this track is how throughout the track, Ice-T talks about how he used to write rhymes about disco and partying and whatnot, but that just wasn't his life, so it didn't sound right. Once again, gangsta rap was called reality rap for a time, and for good reason. It was simply the harsh realities that many were living themselves or seeing others live. Take the start of his second verse. When I wrote about parties, someone always died. When I tried to write happy, yo, I knew I lied. Cause I lived a life of crime, why play you blind? A simple look in anyone of 2 cents would know. I'm a hardcore player from the streets, rapping about hardcore topics over hardcore drum beats. A great example of gangsta rap at its core. Another example of a big gangsta rap track is also by Ice-T. That being New Jack Hustler, Nino's theme, which is featured on and gets its name from the classic 1991 film New Jack City, starring Wesley Snipes and Ice-T. If you haven't seen that film, it's about a gang of drug dealers called Cash Money Brothers, and ironically enough, Ice-T played the cop who wound up bringing them down. This would be the first of his multiple acting stints as law enforcement, but that's another story. In case you were wondering, yes, there's plenty of other rappers that fit in the gangsta rap category, but I'm using 2 of the earliest and biggest examples of the West Coast. However, you can also easily think back to artists like DJ Quick, MC8, and Compton's Most Wanted, Above the Law, The Dog Pound, and more. In fact, if you've seen the first video I ever put out on the channel, that was a rap beef between DJ Quick and MC8, 2 rap rivals from opposing gangs. Once again, putting the gang in gangsta. Now, I did say earlier that part of gangsta rap is rapping about the gang life, which of course is true for many, but you don't have to be a gang member or associated with a gang to be a gangsta rapper. I'm going to give an example of the rise of gangsta rap on the East Coast that occurred not long after Schoolie D. Boogie Down Productions, or BDP, released their debut album Criminal Minded in March 1987. On that album is the track 9mm Goes Bang. You could probably tell by the title what that song is about. Throughout the song, KRS-One talks about shooting a crack dealer, selling weed, and getting into shootouts. So yeah, it makes sense for tracks like this, people would consider this one of the first gangsta rap albums on the East Coast. It also happens to be the album that features the tracks South Bronx and The Bridge Is Over, which were essentially the first diss tracks in the long-lasting beef between KRS-One and MC Shan. I've covered that beef on the channel before too, so check that out for the details on that situation. KRS-One might not have been gang affiliated, but he still rapped about the street life of course, hence the gangsta rap label. I mean, the album cover for Criminal Minded has him and DJ Scott LaRock pictured holding guns, which was pretty unheard of back then. Unfortunately, not long after the release of the album, Scott LaRock was murdered by gun violence, which caused KRS-One to steer away from the violence and gangster rap and into more conscious rap. I gotta emphasize that part. He had gun violence happen to someone close to him, and he chose to steer away from that in his lyrical content. Keep this in mind for later.
Message!
Another example of gangster rap exploding in popularity came from the continued efforts of N.W.A. from their second album, Niggas for Life, which afterwards the group broke up, and then with the solo efforts of the group members Ice Cube, Eazy-E, MC Ren, and Dr. Dre. From gangsta rap on the West Coast, G-Funk was formed, which is short for Gangsta Funk, and basically a fusion of gangsta rap and P-Funk. Thanks to artists like Dre and Code 187 from the group Above the Law, which was also signed to Ruthless Records, G-Funk became the big new thing in the LA area in the 90s. Especially because of classic albums like Dre's Chronic and Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, which sold millions of albums. This went on for a few years. Warren G and the Dog Pound also releasing G-Funk albums. Warren G's debut album even had G-Funk in the title. So yeah, it was really big in the West and it permeated far beyond that. Let's focus for a minute though on the environment that a lot of these rappers come from. Now that's not to say that they all had it rough growing up, of course, but plenty did or seen some things firsthand. Keep in mind the climate during this time frame. In the 80s, the crack epidemic started. The inner city was being flooded with drugs and some people were really making money from selling it to the addicts. Rap might have started off as some kind of disco party music, but it wound up also becoming the music of the streets, gangsta rap in particular. On top of the crack epidemic, there were situations going on like the 1992 Los Angeles riots following the verdict of the trial against the police officers involved in the 1991 beating of Rodney King. Songs like The Day the Niggas Took Over, featured on The Chronic, made reference to the riots. Even rappers in other areas mentioned it, like the Texas group, the Ghetto Boys, and Master P's group, True, from Louisiana, made mention of it. Probably most famous is the song Cop Killer by rock band Body Count, in which Ice-T is the vocalist for, which was a response to the situation and police brutality as a whole. Granted, it's a rock song, Ice-T is still a rapper, so yeah. That's just one situation that prompted a response from so-called gangster rappers, as the media loved to hype them up. Some would say that it was being glorified, and others would say that it was simply young black males speaking their reality. Where do you draw the line? This was also one of the subgenres in rap that has been attacked the most in the media. Cynthia Dolores Tucker, in particular, was an activist who was strongly against gangsta rap. You might remember her for being mentioned by Tupac on his hit single How Do You Want It from All Eyes on Me in 1996, as well as being mentioned by several other rappers like Jay-Z and Lil Wayne. She felt that rap was misogynistic, and honestly, some of it might be, but by no means is the whole genre. You're probably wondering when I'm going to get to drill music, and trust me, I'm getting to it. Evolution doesn't happen overnight. Basically, gangsta rap kinda dominated from the late 80s to the 90s, especially on the West Coast. A whole generation of children grew up listening to it, those born in the 90s in particular. When did drill music really take off and become nationally known? Right around 2012 or so. That would be around the time a lot of these younger rappers would be reaching early adulthood. Do you think that's a coincidence? Now we take it from the West and East Coast to the Midwest, Chicago to be exact. This is where the birth of drill would take place, despite having its roots forming from the areas I mentioned prior. Some people just know drill music to be something Chief Keef started in Chicago with his friends and whatnot, but it goes back a little further. Thanks to songs like Love Sosa and Don't Like, he definitely made it popular and even mainstream perhaps, but before that, there was King Louie. And no, I'm not talking about the orangutan from the Jungle Book. King Louie started putting out music around 2007 and is a few years older than other well-known drill rappers like Chief Keef, Lil Reese, King Von, and so on. However, he's also not the progenitor of this drill music either. That would go to a fellow Chicago rapper, Pac-Man. In a Vlad TV interview from 2021, King Louie was asked about inventing drill and instead gave the credit for that to Pac-Man. They talked about how drill didn't start off as a type of music, it was just a term they used for other things pretty much.
You were the ones that really kind of came up with. You were the one that really came up with a lot of that.
I didn't come up with it. Motherfucker don't be knowing Pac. That's Pac drill come from Pac. R.I.P. Pac. You feel me? Pac-Man. When folks died, you feel me? I just kept going hard with it.
Pac-Man has a song called It's a Drill, which is apparently one of the first songs to actually have the word drill in the title. Pac-Man was murdered sometime in 2010 before the explosion in popularity. Artists like King Louie were putting out mixtapes in 2007 and Chief Keef in 2009, but it wasn't until the hit single I Don't Like was released in March 2012 that people caught on to the Chicago drill scene. It was featured on his mixtape Back from the Dead. You can't forget about the producer behind a lot of these tracks by Chief Keef though. Just like Gangsta Rap and G-Funk had producers like Dr. Dre, drill had a signature sound by a producer behind it as well. That being Young Chop, well known for producing hit songs like I Don't Like and Love Sosa by Chief Keef, and songs by other members of Chief Keef's label Glory Boys Entertainment, like his cousin Fredo Santana and Lil Reese. Drill music, just like gangsta rap, has a focus on gang activity, selling drugs, gun violence, and the like. However, production-wise, it is often compared to trap music, which was a heavily southern sound of rap. Now that's the East Coast, West Coast, and the South fused together to form this new wave of music. If you ask some drill rappers who their favorite rappers were growing up, you might hear names like Gucci Mane, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, and others that were big around that time. I found myself listening to 50 and Wayne a lot growing up also. Now when I say drill music evolved from gangsta rap, it's probably more noticeable when you look at the gang aspect of things. Remember how I said that a lot of gangsta rappers were in a gang or associated somehow with a gang? In the beginning, you didn't really hear too many rappers claiming their set on record. Compton's own DJ Quick has claimed to be the first person banging on wax, which is to rep your set on record. Quick claims Treetop Pyrus proudly and has mentioned it in his music. For example, the track Dollars and Cents, a diss track aimed at MC8 and one of my favorite diss tracks of all time. Ironically enough, a few years later on his 1998 album Rhythmalism, he has the track Use a Gangsta, on which he basically talks about the downside of all the gangsta rap he was doing and the negativity that came from it, like his beef with MC8 and how he was accused of being involved in Biggie's murder. He even ends the song offering to make a record with MC8. This is just one example of rappers who basically realized as they got a little older that maybe the gangsta rap lifestyle just isn't it. Fast forward a few years later to 2005, when we get the release of the documentary, the major record label debut album of another Compton rapper, The Game. Both on record and off, Game was all about representing his gang. Now once again, another rapper that a lot of 90s babies grew up listening to, this new generation of rappers. Bloods and Crips are two of the biggest black gangs in LA, and for Chicago, well, they have a whole lot of gangs as well. Two of the main ones mentioned in Chicago drill though are the Gangsta Disciples and the Black Disciples, or the GDs and the BDs. I'm not going to lecture you about gangs, that's not my area of expertise or the point of this video. I'm just providing some more context. I'm also not here to verify what these rappers did or didn't do in the streets. That's for law enforcement. Whatever they said they did on records is what we're working with. The rivalry between these two gangs goes back years, just like the Bloods and Crips. Now let's get back to the people who really took things to the next level. As I said, Chief Keef had those hit songs I Don't Like and Love Sosa. They're catchy hit songs and two of my favorite songs by him for sure, but let's call it like it is. What a lot of people know drill music to be about besides a certain style of production is really the lyrical content that is focused on the gang violence between rivals. To me, drill rap takes that reality part of reality rap to the next level. In gangster rap, there were a lot of general statements of toughness or threats to the enemies. Not much in the way of talking about exact situations that occurred, however. Does that make them not as real as drill rappers? Let's take one of the early examples of a Chicago drill song taking things to that next level. In October 2011, 16-year-old Chief Keef dropped the song John Madden, in which he sends a shot at Tuka, a rival gang member who was killed earlier that year. Then on Lil Durk's mixtape I'm Still a Hitter, released in 2012, he has the song L's Anthem, on which he takes a shot at Brick Squad, in which Tuka was associated. In response to that, rapper Lil Jojo put out the track 300K, aka BDK, or Black Disciple Killer, which uses the beat from the Chief Keef song Every Day from the mixtape Back from the Dead. Songs like these amassed millions of clicks on platforms like YouTube, and this is also a part of what some might call hate listening, in which the people being dissed listen to the songs to hear what is being said about them, and that boosts the songs in the algorithm and all that, basically getting their ops paid and more publicity. This also essentially helped put a whole gang set on the map when it comes to rap, as record labels saw money to be made from this. You can see that rappers like Chief Keef, Fredo Santana, Lil Reese, Lil Durk, and more all got signed around the same time. You can imagine how this might make rival gangs feel. Them getting all this notoriety, making money, and traveling out of their neighborhood. Prime example is how Chief Keef left Chicago in 2014, only 2 years after releasing his debut album, and moved to LA. There's something else that really connects gangsta rap to drill rap. Remember how I said that the former was attacked by the media? Well, it wasn't just them. Law enforcement and politicians were also a part of that. One of the most egregious examples of this is one you might not have heard of, especially if you're not familiar with the Cali rap scene. Sacramento rapper X-Rated released his debut album, Psychoactive, in 1992, and he was also arrested that year for the home invasion and murder of Patricia Harris. Apparently, he and fellow members of their Crip gang went to her house looking for her sons, and she wound up killed instead. Quite unfortunate, and you might be asking what exactly makes this rap related besides the fact that a rapper was involved. Well, let me answer that question for you. There's two things that were very rap related here. First off, the album cover of Psychoactive featured X-Rated holding a pistol which they claim was the same gun used in the murder. It seems like pretty circumstantial evidence, honestly, given how many people can have an identical gun. Secondly, they also used lyrics from the album in court as evidence. This would be one of the first times that rap lyrics would be used in court. That is something that has happened multiple times since then, like the YSL RICO trial for example, or when Boosie was locked up for several years for murder and other charges. Back before drill rap, however, you often heard rappers talking about their associates and the things they would get into. Take the song Temperatures Rising from Mobb Deep's second album, The Infamous, released in April 1995. It's basically a letter to Havoc's brother, nicknamed Killer Black, who had recently gotten arrested for murder. They claim that someone is snitching on him, and the two confirm that they do not talk to the police themselves. No names of who was killed, where it happened, where the bullets hit, and whatnot. On the flip side, let's look at the track War by Chicago drill rapper Eazy-E. One line Eazy-E has on the song is, "You on that bus stop like Tuka, we put you under the seat." Once again, another reference to Tuka, who indeed got shot at a bus stop. Also, there's this line, "Lil J got shot 21 times, you such a target to me." And the line, "Lil Duck got stabbed, he should have died in the emergency ward." That's 3 different people mentioned in one track. No real subtlety there, it's quite direct. On top of that, let's take Lil Durk, who was on the remix of the song. At the time of this writing, he is currently in prison awaiting trial on murder for hire charges, allegedly in retaliation for the murder of his friend and fellow Chicago rapper King Von in 2020. Eazy-E was shot and killed back in 2021. Were these murders related to this track in particular? Probably not, but I'm sure it doesn't help the situation at all. The song is called War, and that's just what it seems the youth spearheading the drill music movement have found themselves in. Let me ask you this question. Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Either way, I say drill rap is the evolution, or perhaps even the devolution, of gangster rap, because on one hand it lacks the subtlety of early gangster rap like Schoolie D never explicitly saying what PSK stands for, or Eazy-E never really claiming the Crip set he was from. On the other hand, however, it definitely still displays that anger, violence, and street life that gangster rap was known for presenting, and takes it a step further with the production and violence. There's a reason it was called reality rap at first. This was and still is a terrible reality for many people. If anything good has come from this, it's that more light has been shown on the inner cities that have been flooded with this epidemic of drill music, and if nothing else, some more youth in poverty have created a lane for themselves. I might have spoken on Chicago drill in particular, but it isn't something that's relevant to only that city. Since then, there's been UK drill, which originated in London sometime around 2012 as well. Then Brooklyn drill, which was popularized by artists like Bobby Shmurda and Rowdy Rebel in 2014 with hit songs like Hot Nigga by Bobby and Computers by Rowdy featuring Bobby. They both wound up getting locked up and doing several years in prison. I'm sure y'all remember lines like "Mitch caught a body about a week ago" from Hot Nigga. So yeah, sometimes rapping about your reality can get you jammed up. After they was locked up, BK Drill continued on with other artists taking the mantle, most famous of all probably being Pop Smoke, who gained fame in 2019 for hit songs like Dior, and then he was murdered in 2020. Then we have Bronx Drill, which became popular not long afterwards with artists like K-Flock and Ice Spice. New York City Mayor Eric Adams in 2022 stated that he wanted to get New York drill banned after he found out about what drill music is from his son.
But I called my son and he sent me some videos, and it is alarming. And we are going to pull together the social media companies and sit down with them and state that you have a civic and corporate responsibility. You know, I mean, we pulled Trump off Twitter because of what he was spewing. Yet we are allowing music, displaying of guns, violence. We're allowing it to stay on these sites.
Shortly afterwards, he wound up having a meeting with some of the artists about the violence going on. Then there's Jacksonville, Florida drill with artists like Youngeen Ace and Julio Fulio, the latter of which was murdered shortly after his 26th birthday, reportedly related to his beef with Youngeen Ace and their respective gang ties. I could go on and on about how big drill music has gotten, how it has probably influenced so much violence and gotten so many artists locked up or killed, but I'm hoping you get the point by now. If you know me, you know I'm not a fan of censorship in music and whatnot, so I'm not saying that it shouldn't exist or anything. I find a few of these songs to be quite entertaining, the beats really hit, and some of these lines are pretty clever, but I want to know your thoughts on it. Do you agree that drill music is derived from gangster rap? Do you feel like it has a place in hip hop? Were these young artists influenced a bit too much by the gangster rappers of the 80s and 90s? Let me know in the comment section below. Like I said before, I want to cover other things besides rap beefs, and this right here is just one example. Let me know what else you'd like to see me talk about, and as always, remember to subscribe to the channel, click that thumbs up button to like the video, and check out the links in the description to follow on other platforms, join the Discord server, and become a patron or channel member.